will go ahead and get it rolling with the athletics director of East Carolina, John Gilbert, who joins us in studio on a Wednesday. John, welcome in. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Busy time, although I guess there's never really not a busy time for you in the world of college athletics. And
the week of 4th of July is not a busy time. Other than that, it pretty much stays busy.
Year round, pretty much, right? So good news, Pirate fans. We are going bowling. Military Bowl is the destination, East Carolina and NC State. John, can you give us any insight as to what Sunday was like? Because there were some people earlier in the week like, when are we going to find out? And I was like, just relax. We find out on that Sunday at the latest. We'll have it. But then it went on kind of into the afternoon. We were still waiting on our opponent. We thought we were there. Is State going to sign on? So what were those hours kind of afternoon on Sunday like?
Well, really, I'd back up weeks from that. As soon as we got bowl eligible at Tulsa, I started making calls like that Monday, talking to multiple people that run bowls and, just wanting to make sure that, we're conveying where we want to go and the tickets that we'll sell and all those things. And so it really started then. I never really wavered from the Military Bowl throughout the week. Now, I think the delay in announcing really was who we were going to play.
Yeah.
But because the way things work on the AACN is the Military Bowl is the second pick. And so I knew who they were going to pick first, and then I knew that they wanted us as the AAC representative. So I always felt good about where we were going. It really was who were we going to play.
So talking to a current player, Alex Harper, his hope was to go to somewhere warm in the South. He said, although the Military Bowl, and I guess it's not the same for all bowl games, but he said, man, it's really well run and everything. Holton Ahlers said the same thing, even though he didn't get to play in that game. He is a fan of the bowl, but you have that, right, John, that some bowls are ran better than others, kind of maybe treat you, I don't know if that's a good word, but treat you better than others, but the Military Bowl sounds like one of those bowls.
Yeah, I've been, over my career, I've been to a lot of bowl games, and the Military Bowl is a really good bowl. They do treat you very well. Good opportunities for the players to see and do things. And then obviously we get to play in a venue that we're familiar with. So all good and excited about going.
Let's talk about tickets. If you're in the Pirate Club, you can get tickets through East Carolina. If you're not, you can get tickets, I guess, through the Military Bowl or secondary market. But how about since the announcement, John, how are ticket sales going as far as you know?
Tickets are going really well. Now, we're selling mostly premium space right now, suites. There's a bridge area that's kind of indoors that we're selling. We're getting ready to open it up to the public. But very pleased with where we are, and I think we'll have great representation at the game.
Is that the reason you wanted the Military Bowl, just because of its geography?
Really, the geography is really more for our fans.
Sure, yeah.
Like the ability for them to drive to the game. When we played in Birmingham, we had some loyal soldiers and fans that showed up, but there was some effort getting there. And so I do like the fact that the Military Bowl is close and people can get there by driving.
How about the money for these bowl games? Because like I've seen in the past, like teams and schools lose money going to bowl games. So I guess my first question is, who gets the money? Is it the schools, the conferences? How does that work?
Well, it goes to all the bowl money goes to the conference office, and then they disperse it. And really, I'd say your goal in the bowl game is to break even. And sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. When you go to these things, like going to the hotel, there's a reason the hotel is a sponsor of the bowl game. In return, we have to guarantee, I don't remember the exact amount, so don't hold me to this exact amount, but it's like 400 rooms over 4 nights that we have to guarantee them. Well, when you start adding that up and go 400 rooms times, $225 a night, holy cow, like that's a lot of money. So your goal is to make sure you break even. The conference office gets the bowl distribution. They in turn send it to the schools, and then there's some things that we get, like all the ticket revenue for outside seats. We get to keep the first 100,000 in revenue.
Okay.
After that, that goes back to the conference office. So, like, if we sell $200,000 worth of tickets, we get to keep 100, and the conference gets to keep 100. So our goal is to break even.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe a dumb question, maybe a smart question. Do you kind of ever step back and say, why are we doing this if it's not making money?
Well, we do a lot of things in athletics don't make money.
Yeah.
So if we had to go by that, we would have maybe one or two sports, and there would be a lot of things that we don't do if it is strictly on money. I'd also I could make a compelling argument that our game, with NC State will be one of the more viewed games outside of the CFP playoff.
Yeah, it's certainly an attractive matchup. Pirate fans are excited about it. Of course, we open up with NC State next season on the road in Raleigh, so you'll get them back-to-back, which is also very interesting. All right, so Blake Harrell is the full-time coach at East Carolina. John, would you like to announce who you had talks with other than Blake Harrell in that coaching search?
I would not like to announce that. We talked to a lot of people. I'm happy where we landed with Blake. Is that my phone ringing? I'm going to back up on the Military Bowl for a second.
Okay, yeah.
We do have the Pirate Club sold a bus up and back for $180. We filled the first bus. We're working on the second bus now. It's like you get a ticket to the game, you leave the day of the game, go up to Annapolis, get food on the bus, go to the game, and then they're going to come back right after the game.
Okay.
So it'll be a long day, but $180.
How do you?
You go to the Pirate Club website and sign up. We're working on Bus 2, so anybody interested in that, join. Back to Blake Harrell. If you look at where we were when the change was made, and then how the end of the season played out, I felt like it was the right direction to go in for a variety of reasons. And look, I thought that keeping stability within the team and stability within the staff was really important. Now, I don't care who the coach is. You're going to have turnover.
Yeah.
So we probably have had ballpark 17, 18 players that have gone in the portal. 3 or 4 of them have considerable playing time. The rest of them, not considerable playing time.
Yeah.
So do we ever want to lose a player? We do not. But I'd also say that it doesn't matter who the coach is. Based on the current climate and the structure of college football, we were going to have players go in the portal. So we lost Chase Soule, IBM, CJ Mims, and Zakai Barker. Obviously, we would want to keep all those players, but I also know based on Team Boneyard and where we are, we're going to be able to attract good players as well. And let's go back a year ago. We had the same thing happen. And so it is the nature of the beast that we live in. I look at schools across the country of who's going in the portal. It is the system is broken. It needs to be fixed. I can't imagine we're all going into bowl games in the CFP and the portal opened on the 9th. Can you imagine in the NFL, Chase Daniels going, hey, I know we're going to the playoffs, but I'm going to the free agent market now before the playoffs start. The NFL would never let that happen. And so as we figure out how we're going to move forward, we do have to talk about what player acquisition and retention looks like. It has to change or it's going to be a revolving door. But I did not make the move with Blake strictly on players. It was just a small fraction of it.
Yeah.
But I'd also say look at the number of really young players that we are retaining, and I do think have a bright future in a Pirate uniform, and that to me weighs the day.
And how about the trend today? Instead of the I'm entering the portal announcements, we're getting the I'm staying announcements from the Smiths, Anthony and Yannick, from J.D. Lampley earlier this week. So that seems to be the new trend, John, of, hey, I'm staying. And look, we get people on our show on YouTube or Facebook saying, I've seen it a couple of times, hey, why should I spend my money and my time on this bowl game if all the players are leaving? Well, A, all the players aren't leaving. We've had some guys enter the portal. But B, you got a lot of guys that are sticking around. And I think it's important to have those out there too. If we're going to have the I'm leaving social media posts, let's have the I'm staying post so Pirate fans can see that.
Well, to put it in perspective, again, the number of guys that are leaving that have played significant minutes, we're talking about 4 guys out of 85 of significant playing time. And, you know, people don't really track it probably as well as, you know, I live it every day. I think last year we brought in 42 new players, somewhere low 40s. That's a lot of players.
Yeah.
And so the new world of college athletics is you are basically building a new roster every year.
John, I've heard John Gilbert say it, heard Blake Harrell say it. I've heard everybody say it. We do need some change. We need some structure here with what happens with the portal and players coming and going. My question is, like, who's in charge? Is there anything you can do about it? Is it the school presidents? Or who is it? Who could make that decision, John?
Well, I think once this House settlement gets finalized in the spring, I think you're going to start seeing some organizational structure that retention and acquisition of players, there'll be some safeguards in place. It's going to take a little bit of time to get there, but I do think we'll eventually get there.
John Gilbert joining us. If you have a question, we'll do some Q&A with John coming up from the listeners. But on Blake Harrell, I will say you did a good job of not kind of tying your hands at that press conference the day after Mike Houston was fired, and we were talking about, because we asked, is Blake Harrell, does he have an opportunity to be the coach? And you didn't put yourself in a box. You kind of left it open. So from that regard, I mean, on that day, were you thinking Blake Harrell could be the next coach? I mean, a lot happened in his favor from that day until you made that announcement,
No, I really wasn't. I didn't know, I said in my comments on Blake's press conference that I didn't anticipate that we would be there.
Right.
But I also did say with Blake, when he assumed that role, I don't know what the future holds. There has been no decision on what the future looks like. Like, we're going to live this thing kind of week to week.
Yeah.
And the benefit for you is, unlike any other potential candidate, you get to interview for the job every day. And so that means in the, running out on the field with the team and the game day coaching, but it also means a lot of behind the scenes stuff that no one else sees. That were important, and I thought he handled in just a really good way.
Do you have any input? I'm sure at least you sign off, but Blake Harrell has to name, a defensive coordinator. There's also a huge strength and conditioning spot that appears to be open as well. How much opinion, how much input do you have in those?
Well, certainly I'll visit with them, talk to them, and then, talk to Blake about what the profile is, what he's looking for, and then kind of what I see from my chair. Ultimately, I do not hire or fire assistant coaches, and I just don't think that that's my role. But I do give input. Like, I will, one of the things that I'll talk about is experience, what this person's bringing. What are the intangibles? I'll make sure, obviously, from a background standpoint, that there are no issues, and at the end of the day, it will be coach's hire.
The strength and conditioning position, is that a football job? Is that an ECU job? How does that one work?
It's a dual report position, so they report through administration and the football coach. They're essentially the head football strength trainer, but they're also run that unit.
Right.
So I will be more involved in that position.
Yeah. We'll take a break, but while we're on the topic of football coaches, why didn't you just hire Bill Belichick? Did you not want to read the 400-page manifesto?
I look forward to reading that.
Well, that's an interesting deal going on down the road.
He's a good football coach.
That he is. Does he want to get involved with all the drama? I don't know, but that is a story going on in Chapel Hill right now that we are following. We'll talk NIL, facility upgrades, if there's any of those coming, future of the college football playoff, and also football scheduling, season tickets, all the good stuff, and we'll ask some of your questions as well. We'll have another segment with John Gilbert when we return after this. John Gilbert joining us inside the Pirate Radio studios as we are firing off questions to the ECU Athletics Director. We appreciate your time, John, joining us today. Let's talk NIL, and we ask you this every time you join us. I don't even know if we know what a good number would be, but are you pleased with where Team Boneyard is right now and the numbers?
Well, I am pleased with the group that we have managing it. They do it. They're Pirate, donors, boosters, fans, and they're doing it for the love of ECU. They don't take it or keep any money for operating expenses or their time. Everything that they take in, they pay out. So I'm eternally grateful for them. I do think that we are competitive in the NIL space. We can always have more. And the more money we have, the more opportunity we'll have, to fish in a different pond when it comes to retaining players and then going out and attracting them. So, in NIL, it is, I get a lot of people that tell me they don't like it.
Yeah.
But I also know, losing is the alternative. So we need to figure out how to be as competitive as we can in NIL.
What can you do on the athletics side? What are other schools doing that you might want to kind of copy that model as far as, hey, if you buy season tickets, part of it goes to NIL. If you buy this, it can, how do you incorporate athletics into NIL that can raise more money?
So what we've done so far, we started this in November. So any donation to Team Boneyard, you get extra priority points through the Pirate Club. And it actually has generated a lot of interest in NIL and Boneyard donations. Moving forward, if the House lawsuit gets finalized, we'll be in some sort of revenue sharing piece. Then at that point, we can, take athletic department funds and help revenue share with our student athletes.
Right. Yeah, that seems to be the next step. Any idea when that could be settled, John?
The everything we're reading, we think the judge will make a final ruling in April. So before next year, and so we're having meetings with a consulting firm that's helping us to navigate what that space is.
Just so I'm clear, and others are, if that goes through, the schools will then be allowed to pay the athletes.
Yeah, there'll be revenue sharing directly through them, and the way it works is, at the bigger schools, you're seeing the $22 million number. Obviously, that would not be the case for ECU, but you're basically taking your your ticket sale number, your multimedia rights number, your buy game number, and you're taking a percentage of that to pay or revenue share with your student athletes.
We'll get to some of your questions in a moment. Are there any? I'm seeing some questions about lighting in Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium and things like that. Are there any facility upgrades in the future?
Well, we just added lights at soccer and softball. We're doing new turf at baseball and softball. So the apron turf at baseball and softball are both being done now. They'll be done, prior to the start of the season. So that will be new. Obviously, the indoor building, we hope to break ground this spring. I'm hoping and guessing it's going to be somewhere March, April, May is when we'll do that. And then obviously we've got to take the baseball project to the Board of Governors to get approved. And hopefully we would break ground on that sometime this summer, are the projects we're working on at this point.
And as far as the indoor, we're looking good on that.
All good.
Yeah.
Excited about, that'll kind of be the final piece for us in the football footprint. We'll need to, renovate new graphics and all those things from time to time, but actually brick and mortar, I don't see that, us having a big project on the horizon.
All right, John, as far as the college football playoff, the way it's set, I know a lot of folks don't like Power 4 and Group of 5, but it's kind of hard to talk about it without using those terms because it's the way it's set up. But the way it's set up now, it'll be the same for next year. After that, they're going to go back to the drawing board and have a new format. Will it be 12, 14, 16? I don't know. Well, I guess my question is, what can you do as an East Carolina athletics director, if anything, to make sure that Group of 5 has an automatic entry? That's the way it's set up right now. We hope that's the way it's set up in the future. What can you do to advocate for the East Carolina, Boise States of the world?
Well, number one, it is going to change in 26.
Yeah.
There's a new contract that everyone signed. You probably can pull it up online somewhere. And it essentially says that the Big Ten and the SEC will be the driving force on what the new CFP looks like in 26.
Okay.
And so my guess is, based on what happened this year, it is probably going to expand. I don't know what that number will be, 14, 16, whatever. I think there will be modifications to it. I do think that the Group of 5 schools will always have a entryway into it.
Okay.
So I do feel good about that.
As far as could you, and again, I guess we're speculating unless you know something I don't, do you think the way the buys are set up will change with, Boise getting a bye this year with Arizona State, Clemson not receiving that bye? Do you think that format will change?
I think all of that will change in 26.
Yeah, it'll look different.
I think it will look different, and they'll have 2 years of data to tweak what that looks like. But I would anticipate some change then.
And so all we know right now that if ECU goes 12-0, they'll make a playoff next year. Maybe even 11-1, we can sneak in. But it's set up right now for next year the same way as this year. We just got to win, John, and we'll get in.
Well, you bring a good point, because I hear a lot about scheduling, and it's this double-edged sword. I feel like there's a segment of our fan base, they want us to play, a P4 game every week. They want tougher non-conference scheduling. But if you look at the ultimate goal is to get in the playoff, you need to win definitely 10, 11 games to get in the playoff as the G5 representative. So, look, I'm all for playing, good teams. We schedule Michigan, we schedule BYU, we've scheduled Clemson, we've got others that are coming. But at the end of the day, you don't want to overschedule. There is a balance, because you can look up and go, hey, you're a really good team, but you've got 4 losses. You're not the G5 representative.
I agree with that, but I will say that if we can't beat App State or Liberty, we might as well schedule a Power 5, Power 4 team. I know that's an argument, but I mean, I like, and the way it's set up, you've got, State, BYU, we got a great schedule next year, non-conference, and in the future we have some of those.
Yeah, but I also look at it too, like this clip, like, true, we can beat schools like that and should beat schools like that. We're more resourced than App. We should beat them. We're not more resourced than Liberty. Like, they have more NIL money than we do. So, when you start looking at certain schools, next year we're going to open the season with State and play BYU. That BYU game should have been on the schedule this past year, but got moved because of their move to the Big 12. Well, when you look at the differential in what State and BYU have in NIL compared to us, it is, I don't love playing 2 of those, just to be candid.
Noah says 12-0 looks good until you get blown out in the playoffs. Dude, I'll take 12-0 in a playoff spot right now. What are you talking? You're complaining about a hypothetical blowout in the playoffs? Let's get there and see what happens before we complain about it.
The good thing is, like, I go back and look, we do have a pathway there. And,
sure.
And I firmly believe that we should be competing for conference championships, and every couple of years, depending on how the roster hits, we should be competing for a playoff spot. I believe that. I think that is certainly attainable where we are.
John, who's going to win the championship this year? We've got one undefeated team in Oregon, and the way college football has gone, I don't think it ends with an undefeated team. So you kind of said the same during a break. You said, give me one of the favorites and maybe somebody else that shouldn't be there at the end.
When I was at Alabama one year, we went 14-0, and we beat Texas in the national championship. And if you look back on that schedule, we had a game or two that we were darn lucky to win. We actually played Tennessee that year, and it was a very down year for Tennessee. I think they were, 7-5, something like that. And we blocked a field goal with no time on the clock to win the game. If they get the field goal off, we would have won the game. It was that razor thin. So going 14-0 is really, really difficult.
Yeah, Oregon trying to do that, but should be some exciting football coming up. All right, we'll get to – let me ask you about season tickets. Where were we last year, John, and what is the goal for this upcoming season, next season?
This past year we were in that 15,000 neighborhood. If we can stay in that same neighborhood, I think that we will be really good. I saw a graphic today where – I think Fresno was the largest by just a couple thousand in total attendance in the G5, and then ECU was second. I think we're at 37 something. If we can continue to maintain that, it is an advantage when you put recruits in the stands and they see the number of people, and we have a passionate fan base. We are very fortunate to have what we have.
We'll get to some of your questions. A few minutes left with John Gilbert. John got a lot of calls and questions about concessions at the last home game. Part of that, maybe more people showed up than you anticipated. That's always a tough game to get to, but people were excited about the win streak and taking on Navy, but had people complaining about concessions. We've had those before, but what happened that day? What are you doing to try to improve that moving forward?
Well, certainly we heard, some complaints, and anytime that happens, it is unacceptable, and, we address it with the concessionaire. Those non-traditional dates and times can be hard. We rely on so many part-time employees to run our events, parking, ticket takers, concessions, and they can tell you, hey, we're going to have X number of people here tomorrow to work the game. Great. That's exactly what we need. Here's the crowd we're anticipating. And, occasionally they'll call and say, or show up in the morning and go, hey, we're down, 20, 30 people, whatever. And so you have to adjust. That happened when I worked at big schools. It's not acceptable. I'm not making excuses, because nothing irritates me more than to, walk through the concourse and you see people waiting in line. That's not what they came, to the game for. And so we've got to continue to refine and make it easier, when we know that we're short-staffed, that people can still get certain items in a quick manner.
All right, we'll get to some of your questions, and John kind of talked about this earlier. He said, did you have any indication before the portal opened that we were going to lose this many players, especially on the defensive side? And I'll kind of go back to because I thought there would be stability if Blake Harrell was hired, and there, I don't know if stability is even a word you can use in college athletics these days, but were you surprised about the number of entries into the portal, or did you anticipate it?
Well, again, I'd go back to my earlier. I would say we've lost 4 or 5 players out of 18 that play. So 5 players out of an 85-man roster I would say based on what's going on at other schools, I would say that's relatively stable. Now, could we have another one tomorrow or after the bowl game? Absolutely, we could. But again, that is the world we live in. I was not making my decision on Blake based on a few players. It was certainly a factor from the roster standpoint, but obviously we have a lot of players that are staying to be a part of the Pirates next year, which is encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of guys that see the writing on the wall and say, okay, maybe my opportunity to play is better elsewhere than it is at East Carolina. So you've got those, just like you have the handful of guys who are looking to move up, quote unquote. Also, once again, while we have viewers here on the Blake Harrell, so a lot of people have said, oh, these guys that advocated for Blake and wanted him hired are now leaving. Well, they want the best for Blake Harrell. They like Blake Harrell. Like I said, if we just had a new hire here, Jarrett, our intern, did an awesome job. We advocated for him, and he's now working at Pirate Radio. If I'm offered six figures to go to another station, I'd probably take it, John, to help out my family at home.
Not probably. You would take it.
I would take it, and I will still like Jared and glad that I got him on board here at Pirate Radio. My point is, these guys that are leaving love Blake Harrell, but also have their own to look out for, you know?
I see our Tampa Pirate wants to know why we don't schedule in football and basketball. So since I've been here, we've scheduled Michigan, BYU, Clemson is on the schedule. We've got another P4 coming. Basketball, we did a 3-game series with South Carolina. We played Florida on a neutral site, basketball-wise. And we probably have another good one coming that our fans will be excited about next year. No ink dry on the contract, but they'll be pleased. So I'm not sure what he's looking at.
Okay. I have a request/question. Can we get yourself, Tim Pernetti, can we do like an AAC A10 challenge or something? Can we get something cooking up?
Yeah, we actually have been talking about that for a long time. And you know, it's like any marriage or partnership. You have to have the other side that's willing to do it. And so we have talked about that a long time, and I think it's warranted. I just want to make sure that it is with a conference that is competitive. I don't want to go down and do a challenge. I
think A10 would be perfect.
Yeah, they would be perfect, but you know, getting it done.
Yeah.
We are certainly interested in that and improving our basketball product.
All right. Been asked about Chris Johnson. Been seeing Chris be more vocal here lately. Any thoughts of getting him involved, or you know, any big time former players?
Look, I think it is really important for former players to come around the program and be a part of the program. I encourage it. We welcome it. You know, come to practice, start developing relationships with these players. I think that part is really important.
John Gilbert joining us. Let's see if we have any more from our listeners here to be asked. Mufasa or Sonic 3? You have any input on that, John?
No input.
All right, he's going to skip that one. Oh, thank you for giving us a great soundbite we can use. Shirley, let me ask computer John Gilbert, do you have any thoughts on Mufasa or Sonic 3?
None.
Thank you. All right. What are the chances the Saints beat the Commanders this weekend, John?
None.
There you go. We use that quite a bit, John. I like that. All right. What's your message, John, to the Pirate Nation as we sit here end of the year, heading into another calendar year, but in the midst of basketball season, men's and women's, also got baseball on the horizon, softball. So what's your message to Pirate Nation?
Well, I think we've had a really good fall. You look at soccer winning the AAC championship, volleyball, third place finish, regular season in the league, highest finish to date.
Postseason again.
Postseason bowl game for football. Pirate Club donations, investments by our donors are just, they continue to amaze me about how invested they are in the Pirates. So a lot of good things going on. Excited about this football program moving forward. Need people to continue to invest in NIL so we can go attract the best talent. And I tell people all the time, I know you're a basketball guy, if ECU, if we want to have a NCAA tournament team, we can go buy that if we want to. And so the more investments we have in NIL to attract the best players, the better off we're going to be.
Pirates got North Alabama at Minges tonight, 7 o'clock, as Pirates trying to get back on track after 2 straight losses. Just a rough shooting effort against South Carolina. I expect a big one from RJ tonight. I think he's going to have a big one tonight.
You know, I went to North Alabama shoot around right at the end. Their coach Tony Pujol and I used to work together at Alabama.
Okay.
And so as soon as we were coming out of the gym, RJ was coming in to, get some shots up on his own. So he's a special player. He's a Pirate, and look forward to watching him and the rest of the team play tonight at 7.
Absolutely. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Go Pirates.
All right, there is ECU Athletics Director John Gilbert.